Nancy, what's your question?
Hi. So when an interviewer asks you, walk me through your resume, where do you start? Or how much detail do you give?
And Nancy, do you want to just tell everyone your little 2-minute pitch, no longer than a minute and a half?
Oh, it'll be quicker. I've whittled it down. Hold on, I'm looking for the current one.
Oh, just tell us your name, tell everyone your name and what you do and what you're looking for.
Hi, I'm Nancy Aronson. I'm a software developer, artist, and curiosity shop owner. I find those hard to find defects that no one else can find, and I'm looking for a software developer or QA position at companies like Reddit, Microsoft, Amazon, Etsy, and I also sometimes look at financial companies. I'm Nancy Aronson.
Great, that's great. Meryl, you want to answer? or me? Do you want me to?
I think I forgot the question. What they say, walk you through your resume? Well, I would approach that like the tell me about yourself question. I don't think that's really much different. What do you think, Sharon?
No, I would. I just would really make sure that you are explaining to them how you can help them. It's always about them. It's never about you. Walk me through my resume. Oh, I worked here and it was in California and I loved it, but my husband wanted to move. A lot of people do that and they're not looking for that, as most of you probably know. But what they are looking for is is this the best person for this job? So it's a gift. That question is a gift, just like tell me about yourself, because you can say anything you want. You can say, well, what you should do is talk about the positions that are very similar to their position or what they're looking for. Talk about the skills that they ask for in their job description. You're gonna take everything that you know about them and say, well, I did blank, blank, and blank. I did programming and I managed a team, and whatever they needed, you're gonna ask that. You're going to answer that in your question, in their question. So it's really more, don't take them literally. You can say whatever you want. No one's going to say, well, that's not what I asked you. They won't do that. So walk them through which jobs gave you the skills that they're looking for.
So also what I would say is that this is like the tell me about yourself question, in the sense that you can immediately tell a story as long as you know that it connects to whatever it is that you're applying for. So if you look at your resume and you can say, well, you know, at this position that I was at last time, I had this great experience that I think would be really relevant to something I could do at your organization. And then tell the story about how you solved a problem, how you handled a crisis, how you did whatever. You can do that right off the bat. You don't have to wait for them to ask you a question like, well, tell me about a situation when. You can tell them that situation right off the top. So now, Nancy, I'm going to give you permission to not do this, but I'm going to put you on the spot and see if you would like to try answering that question for us right now. So walk us through your resume, Nancy.
But you don't have to if you don't want it.
Yeah, if you don't feel comfortable, don't worry about it.
I don't know. I really have to work on my story, you know, the car and SOAR and whatever stories, because I have had a lot of experience dealing with issues right on the spot. You know, production problem hits, they can't continue working, so you have to figure out what happened, what's wrong, how to work around it or fix it. So I've done a lot of that. I don't.
That's great.
On the call who wants to try, you know, either the tell me about yourself question or walk me through your resume, just to get some practice and get a little feedback.
And by the way, one thing to keep in mind, facts tell, but stories sell. So Meryl is right. Put a story in there and they'll remember you. It doesn't matter what the story is, and they probably won't remember the story, but they'll remember, wow, I really enjoyed sitting and listening to Nancy. You know, so anybody want to take a shot at that?
Well, you can think about it, and if you want to do it later, we'll be up for it. But the more you practice interviewing, the better you get at it. So this is a safe opportunity, and no criticism here, just a chance to try it out and see what happens. I see in the chat room that Sharon Snook wrote transferable skills. Do you want to explain what that means? I don't see you on my screen. If you want to mute yourself and tell me why you wrote that and what you.
I'm here. Basically, to answer that question, you could talk about any transferable skill that you had in your past work experience that could apply to the job that you're applying for. So just bridge the gap there and talk about your transferable skills and give examples.
That's great. That's great. Yep.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions, other comments? People want to, Andrea, I see you holding your hand up.
Yes, hi. I agree that question is typically the first question you get on an interview, but I was recently on a group session like this, and the advisor said that the new first question is, tell me what you've been doing. Everybody knows we've been sequestered to the house, right? Whether you're working or you're not, you're still in a different environment. So how I've been answering, well, first I should introduce myself, Andrea Wolford. I'm a treasury management sales consultant. I have worked for banks my entire career, helping corporate clients become more efficient through automation. Very appropriate in this day and age, especially now. And I've worked for very large banks as well as very small banks. So I've worn many hats. And in terms of what I've been doing, I've been attending many network events. I've been expanding my knowledge in my specific industry as well as other skill trainings. And the big thing is connecting with my colleagues and former colleagues. So if anyone has any other suggestions, but that seems to be a very new question about what are you doing now?
So that's not a new question in interviewing in general. It might not usually be the first question, but when we prep people for interviews, we always tell them you have to prepare the question, tell me what you've been doing since you lost your position. And I think, yes, it's very appropriate. I would not, and it's interesting, Sharon and I did a videotape mock interview with someone yesterday. We asked him that question and he started off with talking about all his networking. Because the interview is not about who you are, but about what you can do for me, I don't really care that you're job searching. I don't really care that you're networking. What I care about, the second part of what you said, which was I'm growing my skill set. And you can be very specific. I've taken a class in this and I've learned how to do this and I'm volunteering here. But you really want to tell them as much as possible that I have not just spent this time job searching. And you don't even have to mention the job searching part. You can talk about networking as a way of learning more about an industry and about gaining information, but everything is about how did I make myself a more valuable candidate so that you'll want to hire me because I'm going to solve your problem. So you're right, that's a great question. Usually I haven't heard it coming at the beginning, but maybe it now does, and that's interesting to know. But it usually comes somewhere in the interview when you want to have that answer prepared. Terrific, Andrea. Anyone else want to talk about having gotten that question, how they answered it? Come on, guys, this is supposed to be interactive.
One other thing that's important, I had to step away to find out where that phone was ringing from, I'm sorry. One thing is also, I don't know if you mentioned it, is volunteering. We have time now, a lot of us, we're out of work. If you haven't already, I suggest you reach out to any nonprofit that interests you and ask them, is there anything I can do? Can I help you file remotely? Can I help you make phone calls? And that, it seems that hiring managers and recruiters and HR people really love to know that you spent your time volunteering while you were looking for a job. So that's, you know, that's really good. It's something I strongly recommend you reach out. Even if you just do 1 hour a week, you don't have to tell them that. I mean, you can tell them, but you volunteered. You'll feel better. You'll have something to do. And they really like that. That's something they like.
And since work is probably going to stay a lot remotely, any kind of volunteering you can do that has to do with teaching a senior how to use Zoom, or we have our Emigre department is trying to move their classes remote. So I put a request out there, who can teach someone how to use Zoom meeting? And this guy, one of my ex-clients, is now teaching our teachers how to do that. So anything that you've learned from these kinds of, the evaluation you're going to fill out later. I had a client volunteer who knew how to use Google Forms. I didn't know how to do it, and he showed me how to do it. So anything that it can involve a technology that's being used now more and more, would be a great way. And all of us people who don't know how to do that kind of stuff are very grateful for volunteers. And again, you know, helping a senior get on Zoom so they can talk to their grandchildren. Any of these kinds of skills are greatly valued and will be valued going forward if they're hiring people who can work remotely and know how to do that comfortably. So maybe teach yourself how to use, because I know a lot of us are using Zoom, but some places are using Google Meetings, and there's Microsoft Meetings, something. There's other meeting platforms that if you have time, go learn them, because maybe the next company won't be using Zoom, it'll be using something else, but everyone's going to be doing some part of their job remotely.
So I see Michael Baresh is on. Michael's been a great help to us with our IT, as well as a lot of other of you. But Michael, would you like to give everybody your 2-minute pitch so they can see what a great 2-minute pitch sounds like? Don't mean to put you on the spot.
So you're going to.
Sure, I could give you my elevator.
There's
pitch.
$5 in it for you.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Baresh. I'm an information technology leader, delivering and supporting digital business solutions and building and leading technical teams in the e-commerce area. My areas of expertise are in web development, IT strategy, maintenance, and support. My strengths are simplifying and solving complex problems to increase customer satisfaction and contribute to the bottom line. I'm looking for IT leadership role in a mid-sized to large company in a metro New York, New Jersey area. While I have extensive expertise in retail and e-commerce, I'm also looking to pivot to healthcare companies like United Health and Atlantic Healthcare Systems. And I'm also looking at some of the consumer products companies like Colgate-Palmolive and Mars.
That's great. That's great.
Good.
So tell me, why did you mention the company?
Because when you mention companies, people seem to relate to it better, and it kind of triggers in their head, oh, I know somebody in this company, let me connect you with somebody. That seems to be very effective for networking, at least.
Yeah, because people remember things that you say necessarily. If you're,
Right.
at some meeting, but they will remember, stick in their mind, not what you did. They'll forget that in 2 seconds, especially if they're not in your field. But when you say a company, they might turn around and say, oh, American Express, my brother-in-law works there. If I can with him, I don't know what he does. They're like, yeah, that's great. Thank you, Michael. That was great, and I love that color on you.
Yeah, thank you.
And also very interesting. So Michael, you're coming in a lot louder and clearer than most people on the call, and I'm wondering it's because of your headset. You want to tell us about that? Because everyone's going to be on lots of Zoom calls. That might be something worth.
It is definitely because of the headset, even though, there's some opinions that when you're wearing this, you might be old because you're wearing a headset. But it's definitely because of the headset, the sound comes clear. So if you see people that have headsets and they speak, they're usually clear. Then just having the microphone on your laptop picking up the sound.
Oh, and the other question that popped in my head while you were talking, because you said Hackensack, were you by any chance, and if anyone else is on this call, I know that we sent out a link for this information session they had at Hackensack Meridian the other day. Did you go on that, or did anyone go on that call?
I missed that call, unfortunately.
I could not go on the call because I never received the link and tried to contact them, but I could not contact them, so I did not receive the link at all.
I think a couple people said that to me, so I wonder who they, I don't know if they limited it. I mean,
I had clients that went, and they said that all the jobs were hospitality jobs. They were either food but we do have, people connected with their HR. So
I had applied for a IT job, the project manager position there based on their, so I just wanted to find out who the people were. So I knew that it was a hospitality job, but I just wanted to find out who the people were so that I could connect with them later on. And that was my goal of wanting to attend that in the first place, not just for the hospitality job, but I could not get that. But now, since you say that we have contacts in HR, then maybe I'll reach out to you. Thank you.
Yes, so reach out to me, please.
Okay.
Well, why don't you tell us what you do? What exactly your elevator pitch?
Okay, I'm just working on it still. I'm a project manager, program manager. My focus is on has been on retail and e-commerce companies, even though I have worked in other manufacturing and supply chain companies as well, handling business transformation projects, enterprise-wide ERP systems as well. And I'm currently in transition. I used to work for B&H before, not working now because of COVID. I'm looking for to land positions full-time or contract, locally or anywhere else.
Give us some companies so we have an idea. Like
So,
what companies would you like to work for?
okay, so this is what I'm catching from people here. So I have not gotten those companies yet. So I don't know.
There's nothing that there's no company you'd love to work for? That's
So
a good place to start.
I'd love to work for Amazon. I have already spoken to someone who was in one of those networking groups that I had been attending, and she landed up a job recently last week. So I have contacted her to ask for some questions, but Amazon is over target list.
So you're looking for big companies, corporations, not for small mid-sized companies, correct?
I'm looking for big and medium.
So that I would say that in the end of your elevator pitch, so people will, if they hear ever someone, if they have someone they're related to at Amazon, they might say, okay, let me connect you with so and so.
Got you.
Otherwise, you did a good job, even though you say that it wasn't prepared. It was a good job.
Thank you. I had one question on the working for nonprofits, doing some voluntary. So how do you approach that? So I live here in Jersey, Central Jersey, in Monroe. How do I look for companies what do I do? Where should I start if I want to say volunteer?
So there's two ways you can do that. First of all, there are a lot of organizations. There's one called volunteermatch.com, and they match volunteers, and they have organizations that let them know they're looking for volunteers. And I think you can search it by region and maybe a national organization, and there are probably maybe local ones like that. The other way is if you go on a website called Idealist, IDEALIST.org. It is a job board, but it's actually not just a job board for nonprofits. And you can search it by jobs, you can search it by volunteers, you can search it by internships, you can search it by organizations. So like our organization doesn't have a volunteer opportunity up on that website, but if you called us and said, hey, I have IT skills. So what I would tell you to do is, what are you passionate about? What kind of mission floats your boat? Do you want to work with equine therapy? That came to my head because yesterday I had a client who wanted to do that, not just a random thought on my head. You want to work with solar energy. You want to work with, children who have cancer. Whatever the issue might be, you can go on that website. You can search organizations by that. Just put in children and New Jersey. It will tell you all of the nonprofits in New Jersey that have anything to do with children. And then you can click around. It takes you right to their websites. And then you find 2 or 3 organizations. Usually I would say local because in the office you don't want to drive far to go on, to volunteer someplace. Now local is a little less important if you're doing it remotely, and you reach out to them. You call them up and you say, hey, do you have a volunteer coordinator? I'm unemployed right now. I have these skills. I have great technical skills, and I would love to help you if there's anything you can do, help you develop a database, help you do this, help you with the social media, especially nonprofits where it tends to be the more mature workers are living and working. Then a lot of them look for help, like with social media and the kinds of stuff that the younger people can do. No stereotypes here, of course. And so, think of what it is you think you can offer, and then go find some organizations and reach out to them directly and see if they have a need for you or not. Or, like I said, look for one of these volunteer match kind of places that actually know about volunteer opportunities. But it can be either way. But find a place that you care about the mission, because otherwise you don't want to be there. You want to do something where it's someplace where you want to contribute.
Thank you so much. This was a step.
Like the food banks. Food banks are always looking for people, and maybe you could do logistics or something like that for them. But
Someone is raising your hand in the bottom of my screen.
Yes. So one thing I heard Patty say that he was involved in project management. So there's a professional organization called PMI, and they often need volunteers to help them run their daily and weekly activities.
Great idea.
And it is sort of related to what he does for a job. And that's always really wonderful for volunteer stuff.
Wow. Thank you so much, Howard.
Perfect. All right, Howard, now that you unmuted yourself, you want to take a stab at telling us about who you are and what you're looking for?
No, but I'll do it anyway.
Okay. Yeah, you're not judging here, I promise.
So my name is Howard Altman. I'm a chemical engineer. I helped companies figure out how they would make in large quantities these great chemicals that the chemists figure out what to do in the lab. I volunteer at a number of organizations, including a job search skills and networking group in the Connecticut area.
Are you up in Connecticut, Howard?
I am.
Oh, welcome to New Jersey.
Thank you. I used to live there too.
Virtual New Jersey.
I'm sorry?
I said virtual New Jersey.
Ah, yeah, got it. Well, I used to live in Central Jersey.
Okay, terrific. All right.
By the way, did I mention that all these volunteer things that you do, you can put on your resume. I mean, you must put them on the resume too.
And LinkedIn.
Yep. And don't put it volunteer in big bold words and that. At the very bottom in parentheses in lowercase, put volunteer.
Yeah.
Because you are working and you are doing, learning new things.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill, for putting the volunteer match website on the chat room. Judy, I saw before you were asking people in the group about that you were looking for a vendor. Do you want to unmute yourself and tell people what you're looking for, who you are and what you're looking for?
Yeah, just give me 1 second. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm clear.
I just want to put my picture back on. Okay. Hi, I'm Judy Chanowitz. I have a lot of experience in the IT field in project manager, business analyst. My background's in telecommunications, but I'm looking to pivot and try to move into healthcare. I'd love to talk to anybody who's been in IT healthcare. I am also, my question was, I'm looking to take a class in Six Sigma Green Belt. I've signed up with a vendor and I'm having a terrible experience. I'm ready to dispute my charge. And I'm just trying to find out if anybody has gone for their certification, either has a vendor they would recommend or somebody to avoid, which I've found is probably almost as important. That was my question.
Judy, which vendor are you working with?
I have to look up the name. It's actually, I picked a, I didn't pick a, and it was a contingency for getting an interview with a large company. They said, sign up with this vendor, that's who they use. And I do not believe that the course that they sold me was the course for a large vendor because, and I can tell you offline,
Okay.
I can look it up. But it was something that like a large corporation was using, but the quality of the class, it allowed me to jump. It didn't tell me what I needed to do, and it would jump me between chapters, and I couldn't finish the previous chapters. So, any recommendations I would love.
I think that BTTI is a pretty reputable one. I think a lot of people I've seen on the networking circuit have used them.
Yeah, I had spoken to them last year because for WorkShare, they're a vendor, but not for Middlesex where I was. So, but thank you. I can look back on their site. I don't know if they have that.
And it might have changed because of COVID and everyone's doing everything remote anyway, that they might be now available if they weren't a year ago. So,
yeah, they just didn't have a contract with Middlesex at the time. But thank you. I'm also about to put in to the chat the website for PMI New Jersey to the volunteer page. So
Thank
you.
So I was just about to do that. That's why I was.
Howard, you can just unmute yourself. You don't have to raise your hand because not everyone's on my screen at the same time. So.
Well, Cheri had a question.
Oh, okay.
Hi. I have a question. I have been applying to jobs, and a lot of time they ask for your salary requirements. Now, I've had over 25 years of experience in corporate treasury, and my fear is things that I think I should have at least had a phone call on. is that I'm out overpricing myself. How do we deal with that? I mean, do you lowball yourself just to get a phone call, or what? I mean, I'm not really sure how to handle this.
Meryl, you want, because we might disagree on this one. There's, I personally would lowball it a little bit. First of all, are you looking everywhere that has like Paysa and Pay.com? Are you checking what the going rate is for those jobs right now? And
no, I haven't. I just know what, I mean, I just finished working at the end of December, and I'm already lowballing it off of what I was making. So I have to admit I haven't, but I'm part of a treasury group that they talk about pay, and they even say that a lot of companies are trying to, for lack of a better word, get away with paying less when treasury people with experience are worth more. So I'm just already, you know, taking a step down from what I was making, but I don't know how far down I have to take just to at least have a phone call.
All right, so you first absolutely have to research what the going rate is. Sometimes it's a place like Glassdoor is going to tell you something that's, they take it by every single state in the United States, and that's how they come up with the number. So keep in mind, you're in the New York, New Jersey area, you can go up a little from there.
Right.
But I would check all of those. There's a lot of websites. There's Paysa, there's Pay.com, there's Salary.com, Glassdoor. Check as many as you can, and then put in what they're saying, put the medium in. And then when you get on the interview, you can upsell yourself, and you could tell them, you know, I don't just bring what the skills you want, I can also do this, this, and this. That's why I feel that maybe I can get a little more. But let them meet you and see how wonderful and great you are, and then negotiate. And you can always say no. But yes, I would go down a little bit lower if you feel and you've been told that that's what's happening in that industry. But first, check it out. What do you think, Meryl?
I mean, I have looked on Glassdoor and Simply Hired, you know, where they try to give a range. But, you know, even when I see it, I have to admit, I think it looks low, you know. But you're right. I'm in the New York metropolitan area. If it's more like a national average, it might be accurate.
Okay, so I don't disagree with Sharon. I would take a totally different approach to this. If you're only applying online and relying on those online applications, you're wasting your time.
No, I'm not. Okay, I'm just saying that when I do see something that I'm interested in, I'm just finding.
You apply online, but then you work your butt off to find somebody internal who's going to get your resume where it needs to go. Because the online applications are computers, and the computers are responding to whatever the person who signed up, who designed the software. I have, and I'll use a personal story. I have a daughter-in-law who's a graphic designer, who has a 2-year degree from an art institute and no bachelor's. She was applying for a job at Yale, which she didn't get, not related to not having the bachelor's, but afterwards she had a conversation with the HR person, like a debriefing, because my son, her husband, works there, and put her in touch with him, the HR person. And she said to the HR person, can I get hired at Yale without a bachelor's? And the woman said to her, absolutely, with your creative skills and your portfolio, you can absolutely get this job. She said, but if you apply online, it is set up that the second it doesn't say bachelor's, you're going to get rejected. And the only way you're going to get in the door is by someone walking your resume in. So you don't know what they're putting in, what they're not. And as Sharon said, your goal is to get an interview and show them how wonderful you are. And, you know, if you apply online and they're not, because the computer, whoever set that up said, well, this is the salary. So then you got to do everything you can to get in the door the other way, because you're never going to get past it. You know, some people say put in 00, or that's maybe for the dates of birth or whatever. The computer isn't thinking. It's just doing whatever, yes, no, go to the next chain, whatever, the software is. So don't rely on it.
I mean, I've been doing both. I just, like I said, sometimes when you don't know somebody, you want to apply because you want to be one of the first to apply, but then you don't know if you're outpricing yourself. I guess part of, and I don't know if you have any perspective on this, but I used to work in New York. I live in New Jersey. I'm looking for jobs really back in New Jersey as my preference. I mean, what's your perspective on the salary differentials?
Salaries are definitely lower in New Jersey.
Significantly, are they?
I guess it depends on the field, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It depends on the company. Like in
Right.
your thing, I don't think it's that much different.
Right.
It's
Have you
probably
spoken-
20,000 difference, 10.
But you do have to keep in mind, I mean, maybe I don't need to say it, but you don't have the commute, which is
I know.
very time consuming and expensive. So, so taking less money up front, you may be still coming out ahead.
Oh, absolutely. And I totally get that.
Also the taxes.
Yes, the taxes, the commute, there's
Have you
a
spoken
number
to-
of factors.
Have you spoken to Janelle Rosino?
One-on-one, no. But I know who she is.
I would suggest it because she might know the price differential between New York City and New Jersey, specifically in the finance executive area, because that's what she specializes in.
Okay.
And
And she's-
sometimes if you're lucky, Glassdoor has the salaries per company and like real salaries that you can look at if you put in the company in the position to get a reality check.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't really sure of the accuracy of some of those jobs.
Again, something like Glassdoor, they give you, it's sort of a medium because it could be in Arkansas as well, But so look towards the top end of that. I don't think that a lot of, from what I've read and what we've heard, I don't think a lot of people are lowering salaries for jobs like yours, treasury and finance jobs, because of what's going on. I don't think that's happening because they still want the best person. They're still competitive only in the finance world. That's what I've found. There are people, I have 2 clients that got jobs during COVID that work in finance, and they got exactly the pay they were looking for. So,
okay, thank you.
I think finance
The other
jobs.
thing, Cheri, is that you need to have this information, not necessarily to get into the door, but once you hopefully have an offer and you want to negotiate salary. So you have to always know
Right.
going in, what is your bottom line? What's the least you're willing to make? What would you like to make? And, and I always find that if you don't ask, you don't get. So, certain places, especially nonprofits, they have a budget, it's a grant. And even there may be some leeway, but not usually much. But, you'll hear a lot about my kids, but my younger son asked for a ridiculous salary when he was going from job 1 to job 2. And my husband and I were like, if I was the HR person, I would have thought he was being so obnoxious. He was a 20-something-year-old. And they gave him $5,000 more because he asked for it. So, again, depends on industry, depends on everything else. But, I find that if you don't ask, then they're happy not to give you more. But if you ask within a certain reasonable amount with a reason, then they might be able to do it. But Cheri, what you didn't do, and if you're willing to do it, let's hear your elevator pitch.
Okay. I am Cheri Kalman, and I'm a financial professional with broad corporate treasury and financial analysis experience. Throughout my career, I've employed my skills in capital markets, corporate finance, foreign exchange risk management, and business case analysis at multinational corporations, large ones for that matter. On cross-functional teams, I am seen as a trusted treasury advisor, especially in the area of foreign exchange, where I help business partners manage their risk. I'm also seen as a trusted player on teams that solve economic, accounting, tax, and technological problems. And I hope to find a corporate treasury opportunity where I can demonstrate these competencies as a valued team player. As I mentioned, I was only recently let go at the end of the year. I worked at Time Warner for a long time, and it was bought by AT&T. So all the corporate functions moved to Dallas, and I didn't. So I'm really just starting to look for more opportunities up here. And I am not industry specific because as a finance person in treasuries are in all companies. So I am open to any industry. And it would be great to be able to get back into a multinational corporation and utilize my expertise in foreign exchange.
Great,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody on the call know anybody who can help Cheri? Know anybody in the treasury world, financial world? Or you can put it in the chat box, or you can reach out to her directly.
Does anyone have any other questions about like interviewing, for example? Any question that always gets you stuck?
I have a question.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
But something to do with a recruiter that I spoke with yesterday. I was telling the recruiter about jobs that I've applied to, and by the way, I'm Rebecca, and I have a BFA in interior design, and I was laid off due to COVID-19. And I was working as an architectural drafter in an architectural firm. And so I'm looking for a position in either the interior design field or architecture field. Before that, I was working with an interior designer. So I spoke to a recruiter yesterday, and I was telling him about all these jobs that I've applied to and asking why I'm not hearing back, and if it's because that they see maybe I was laid off. And he said that he's seen that sometimes people put job ads out there and then they put the jobs on hold. Well, how do you know if the job is on hold or if it's a real job that they're actually looking for at the moment?
Great question. I love your background, by the way, Rebecca. I feel like I'm, in the tropics. So,
Okay.
Anyone on the call want to answer that before Sharon and I take a stab at it? Come on, guys. You have help for each other. You've all been out there job searching.
Yeah, I'll make a comment. Hi, it's Paul. What I've learned is that frequently a company will post jobs. For instance, I've just come from KPMG. I'm an IT professional, and I was on contract with KPMG and looking to move out of contract into FTE when the COVID layoffs came in large quantities. And I have a lot of contacts there at KPMG, so I'm in touch with them, and I will ping someone and say, hey, can you internal refer me to this job posting? Even though I'm also hearing from everybody that from top down, they've got a lockdown on any hiring. And what I get back is, well, what they tend to do is they put those up and they leave them there internally. But if you see it on LinkedIn, they have to pay for that. So to post it on LinkedIn, it costs the company something, and they likely will not sponsor a LinkedIn job at a cost, whereas on their website, they can have numerous jobs hanging out there without any intention of filling them at the moment. I also have learned working at KPMG that their hiring process is very lengthy. And we would have the team that I was with, we would have job applicants that went through the entire interview process, and then some hitch would happen in the back end, either from leadership or with HR or some other directive would come down, and weeks and months would pass with these people just hanging on, waiting, for some kind of clarity coming, when in fact a candidate had been selected, had been vetted, and everyone was in alignment. Let's go with this person. And on one occasion, someone was strung along for 2.5 months, and then because of changes within the organization, the job rec was pulled, and they had to be informed, sorry. So those kind of things are going on in the background. You have no clarity about it. And the main takeaway I have is that you never hang your hat on somebody saying, looks good for you. You keep going full time all the time, finding that next interview, filling up your pipeline, finding new opportunities, because that also gives you more leverage when that long hoped for opportunity lands in your lap. You're not like, oh, sure, I'll take anything. But, you know, and that, of course, is easier said than done. You know, I struggle as a person who is a generalist. I don't fit into a nice, neat category. You know, like I'm not a project manager where I can just pin that and, you know, quickly identify myself within this little box. And that creates a challenge for me. Just getting interviews, getting people to respond to me. And it's all about touching base, participating in these kinds of events, demonstrating your abilities. I'm deeply involved with a couple of volunteer organizations that at the same time, they also suck up a bunch of my time, but you know, that's where I'm active, and I'm really working hard to use those and pivot off those and not depend on getting past the applicant tracking systems that are programmed to very narrowly define who is an acceptable candidate.
That was great. Thank you. You want a job coaching people?
Oh, sure.
Yes. That was perfect. You have anything to add to Sharon? Because I don't. I think he said everything I was going to say.
Yeah, that was great. And it's so nice to hear it from the other side. So we're not, you know, people don't feel, am I crazy?
We're listening. We're listening. Yes.
Yeah, and you know what? I have a friend that works at KPMG, and she says exactly what you said. Yep. And she talks about how hard it was for her to get in the door and how bad, exactly. They needed people on their team. She isn't in IT, but they needed people, and they strung people along, and then they didn't hire them. And I think it happens at those big organizations all the time. So
absolutely. And there's so many things going on in the background that even the hiring manager, you know, just throws up his or her hands and says, you know, I thought I had an open rec. I thought I was okay to proceed. And they just jerked it away at the last minute, or some change happens, or, you know.
I was at KPMG for 25 years. Like, I was hiring people for probably 20 of those years.
Mm-hmm.
It's changed a lot over the past 5 years. And I can saw the hiring process slow down and get more cumbersome, like I would say, in the last 3 to 5. It was never as bad as it is now, but I also know that within the IT area at KPMG up in Montvale, that they're looking at some significant layoffs coming down in the next few months. So I would be very, very careful there.
Frank, what's your, I'd love to hear your elevator pitch, but let me just say to Rebecca.
Sure.
Rebecca, that was a great question you asked, and you can't tell. So you just have to apply and hope for the best, because you just never know. You never know if this is a real job that they're going to really give to you or not. Just keep applying, and I know you'll get it. I know you'll.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yep, I'm sure you will. And Frank, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Sure.
2-minute pitch.
Hello, I'm Frank Powers. I'm an experienced IT leader with a background in enterprise applications and organizational management. I have a track record of managing organizations with headcounts between 50 and 75 and taking complex projects from an idea all the way through to implementation. If you need organizational leadership, are lacking structure, or have an IT project that terrifies you, please contact me. I thrive on achieving the impossible on time, within budget, without sacrificing quality. While my specialty is in professional services, I am also looking at financial services and healthcare. My target companies include Eisner-Amper, Cohn-Resnick, ADP, Prudential, and Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield. Frank Powers.
Great. That was great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks for that.
What you said, if you have, what did you say? If you have any IT fears, what did you say? How did you put it?
Like, if you have any IT projects that terrify you.
That terrify you. I love that. That's great.
Meryl and I have many of those.
Yeah, right.
Meryl and I have a lot of terrifying IT projects.
Call me. My number's in the chat.
Okay, it's a deal. And Paul, you don't get away with it. You got to do yours now too, unless you really don't want to.
Well, I don't know. I mean, after Frank did his, I feel, you know, like, wow. Yeah, so my name's Paul Appelgren. I am also an IT professional. I came into the IT world from the business world. I was in real estate, finance, and became the IT person de facto as a result of a vacuum. And I went into that vacuum because people identified me as a person who knew how to get things done from a business perspective. I ran my own firm for 15 years before going to work in the corporate field at an enterprise level. So I understand why a business needs to get work done and how IT functions in the nexus of that to bring the perspective of it's not about the technology, it's about what the business needs to accomplish. I'm a generalist. I see things from a broad perspective and can bring that knowledge to bear to help your bottom line. Thanks.
That's great.
You know what I really liked about that, Paul? That you really spoke to how I'm going to solve your problem. Right. And where you get that understanding from. So I really like that. That was excellent. I can't believe how many IT people are on this call. Those of you who are not IT people, don't be intimidated the way Sharon and I usually are, but that's okay.
It's not rocket science.
Sometimes it is.
It's only IT. It's not rocket science. Yeah.
Excellent.
So,
please don't give away our secrets, Paul.
Oh, that's right.
We think it's magic.
Exactly, and we like it that way.
So anybody have any ideas for our interior decorator? Anybody know anyone or have any other suggestions?
And also architectural design.
Does she have a portfolio up on LinkedIn where people could see samples of her work?
I actually don't, but I'm working on putting it together. I'm working on putting it on LinkedIn. Right now I just have a PDF.
I mean, like, even if it's not complete, can you put it up there in sort of stages? Something is probably better than nothing.
Yeah, I'm working on that this week to put it on LinkedIn.
Excellent.
So I think one thing, I know somebody who's in the industry, and I believe that interior decorating is not what you do. It's interior design, and which requires it requires more education, more than interior decorator. And I think a lot of people who don't know anything about it don't understand the difference. So it might be good for you to say something about, interior design, which is not the same as interior decorating, interior design, which is also architectural, however you want to word it, but so that people understand you're not coming in to say, oh, I think you should put a picture over there. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not what your skill set is and what you're really trained in marketing yourself is.
That's a good idea.
Hey, Rebecca, can I just ask a question? Because I may not have heard all the details of your elevator pitch in terms of where you're looking to work. Have you thought about how you could fit into, say, a large corporate environment that has to deal with space management? My real estate background in the commercial realm, space is constantly moving and changing, and larger corporations definitely need people to help them ideate how to use the space that they're using, or rather that they have under lease, long-term lease, and now that so much is going remote, how are they going to repurpose that? How are they going to package it up, and what usage will they have as they try to reduce on-site workforce?
Right. I've been trying to look into that, and I just don't know where to look or what companies might be doing that and where I could start. Do you have any suggestions or ideas?
Yeah, bear with me. My grandfather clock is going off. I got a good the 11 ping pongs to go past you. One second.
Are you still with us there, Paul?
I am. It's 11 o'clock. I should have stopped my clock. Sorry about that, everyone. So for instance, I'm thinking that even some of the management companies like CBRE, the big owners, the real companies, the people who have just done Hudson Yards, if you start to mine contacts of your contacts, looking at those areas, the people who are going to have a ton of inventory on their hands and are going to have ideas about how to reimagine those spaces would be good. Even like WeWork must have a real need for people like you to I would suspect that they have a whole department of interior design that has that responsibility. So what I tend to do is I look at my contacts, I go and I start mining through their contacts, is there, some idea, some hook. And of course, then you have to start building that relationship because nobody likes to get that ping, hey, can you give me a job? It's about, what can you offer? And it is challenging. I will not underestimate that, but that's kind of a way to pivot into it.
Yeah.
Right now, that's something important right now because of a lot of companies deciding that they're going to go virtual, so they have all this extra space. So that's such a great idea. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I also have one other suggestion for Rebecca. I recently, I'm in the process of selling my house, and one of the things that the realtor that I'm using offers is they have an internal interior design person who provides recommendations and things to people who are to the sellers and does other design services. So it might be worthwhile to reach out to some realtors in the area and see if even to volunteer to kind of get some ins in the industry with people who are looking for designers for their homes or looking for designers in selling their homes and things of that sort. It's just kind of a way to network with people in the area and possibly get an opportunity to do some work for people and get your name out there doing interior design work.
Well, that's a good idea. Actually, my first job at a school, I graduated 10 years ago, and I worked for Sharon Williams as a color consultant. And so I did go to people's homes and help them choose color for their home. So I have experience with that, but talking to realtors is a good idea.
Yeah, and there's also, they do staging too, like the realtor that I happen to use has their own staging stuff. So it's another way to even go beyond the color component of it and actually really show your special skills as a designer as opposed to simply, a decorator too.
Right. Well, thank you.
You might also want to try Cushman.
Cushman?
Yeah, basically.
Cushman Wakefield.
Cushman Wakefield, they do a lot of the commercial rental properties. So with people trying to reconfigure spaces for their tenants, they might be interested as well. Also like Steelcase, I don't know if they're still in business, but any of the office furniture places, as well as stores like Office Depot, Staples, they're providing office furniture, so you might be able to link up with them, not necessarily that they would employ you, but they might let you leave your card.
Right.
Or brochure.
Great suggestions about how to think outside the box, looking, no one thinks, so COVID, there are no jobs out there, there's nothing to be had, but there are industries and places where there's a great need. And so, yeah, even thinking of like WeWork and those kind of places, I think that's great.
So I was just thinking of California Closets and places like that.
Yeah, I actually looked into that a few years ago, and then they said years ago when I was looking, they said I didn't have the experience, and then they didn't. But that's a good idea to look into them again.
Because nowadays with people working from home, it's a case where we all have to configure office areas that are ergonomically safe for us, as well as we're professional in the sense that we're all being viewed on camera.
Right.
And so people need creative solutions when they don't have space.
Right. That's a good idea.
Carol, why don't you tell us what you do, and then Jennifer can too. What's your pitch, Carol? Your elevator pitch.
Well, I usually say my name, Carol McCullagh, a PhD after my name sometimes stands for Higher, Higher, and Deeper. I'm looking for my next president or COO position in the diversified industrial sector. That's companies like Ingersoll Rand, Train Technologies, Allegion, Raytheon Technologies. Got some controls. I'm willing to relocate. One of my bosses once told me, Carol, we know you haven't done this before, but it isn't rocket science, and even if it is, you don't have that excuse. So that explains my very broad background across all sectors of the business. I focus on basically product creation of engineered products and also the associated services like installation, office engineering, spares and repairs, customer technical supports for global companies. I'm looking for another position in that area. And in the meantime, while I'm looking, I'm helping a number of job search networking groups with their processes and their technology. So, Carol McCullagh.
Thanks, Carol. And Jennifer, what about you? Jennifer Katz.
Hi. Well, I'm in a little bit of a different situation. I'm actually looking to transition out of my current field into something different. I'm actually an attorney. I've been practicing for several years now, but I'm actually a graduate with a Bachelor's of Science degree in biology. So I started as a scientist and then transferred into, believe it or not, interior decorating, and then transferred into the law. And I'm looking to transfer out of the law into something else. So my challenge is really figuring out what I want to do and what kind of skills I have from the experience I have that I can transfer to something else. And also at the same time, not make it look like I'm somebody who just jumps from kind of career to career and different things. And, you know, I'm looking for something that's going to be for the next many, many years that I'm going to be working. But it's been kind of a winding road to get there.
But I'm sure that in each one of those careers that you've had, you have used similar skill sets and have similar strengths. So when you're ready to figure out what you're going to do next, and looking at that will help you do that. Then also when you repackage and rebrand yourself, instead of saying, oh, I'm making an excuse, I've had all these different careers, say, no, well, really, this wasn't so different. And it's interesting. Years ago, I applied for a job to work in a nursing home. I have a PhD in counseling psychology. And I walked into the interview and I said, you know what? I have never worked with an elderly patient. I have never taken a course in gerontology, but I have worked with people in transition. I've worked with people coming out of college, and I've worked with women going back to work. So I made the connection that even though I'd never worked with an elderly patient, that their situation was the same, and it was just, and then I said, whatever specifics I need to know, you'll give me the information, and on my own time, I'll come up and read it and learn it really quickly. So once you figure out what your target is, then you'll look back and say, and actually looking back will help you figure out what your target is. You'll be able to say, you know, each one of these jobs, even though they look like they're very different, they're really not. But you'll have to spell that out in the interview, in your resume, and your LinkedIn. You'll have to show those connections. But once you know what those connections are, don't make excuses and apologize. Say, no, this just makes me stronger because I've used these skill sets in so many different ways.
One of those areas that you might be able to blend things in, I'm not sure how to articulate it very well, is medical devices. In the sense of, you've got the legal background, so you understand the legal implications. You have the chemistry background, so you have the science background. And then you also have the interior, if I heard it right, design indication, so you know how to position them in a house or a facility.
Great ideas, and if you need any help, you can reach out to me directly, because one of the things we do, and since I didn't do my elevator pitch at the beginning of this program, what JVS does do is help people both who know what they're looking for become the best job searchers they can be, and also people who are not sure what they want to do next, figure out what they want to do next, get that focus, and then help them be the best job searchers they can be. So if you have any questions and you want to reach out to me, I can explain more how we might be able to help you get focused. So welcome to the call, Jennifer. There was a question in the chat box from Patty, and he asked specifically, are there any good government helps available to mitigate cost of getting certification? So there is, if you're on unemployment, and there may be some people on this call who have actually gotten, there are grants up to $4,000. Rebecca, do you have information like that you might want to share with Patty?
No, nothing that I can think of.
Oh, okay, because I thought that maybe you were getting, you're getting your training another way. But there are, you go through unemployment, they have approved vendors, and then you can go and figure out how to get up to $4,000 from unemployment to pay for whatever it is. And it wasn't Rebecca, it's one other of my clients who may or may not be on this call who is getting money from the government to do that. So there are ways to do that. Sharon? Oh, I thought you were lit up, so I thought you said something.
You're talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was going to say exactly what you said.
Okay. No, your box was lit up, so I thought you said something. Anyone else on the call have any experience with unemployment and trying to get payment for certifications and training? I do have someone, Patty, in my caseload. If I can remember who it is, I will try to put the two of you together.
Thank you. So I'm getting my unemployment from New York. So does it make a difference? Is New York or New Jersey? Does it make a difference?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that, but I would. Anna, you said something?
It can make a difference significantly. Well, I'm sorry, I had the plumber outside my window. Can somebody very quickly state the question about unemployment?
About getting payment from getting government funds to help you pay for retraining.
For retraining in a specific thing? Yeah, that I'm not sure about. But when the reemployment centers reopen, which should be very soon, I think that's where you would get that information.
No, for example, I want to take a PMP certification or some other certification, so or a Six Sigma certification. So I want to have companies go through the program and then take the certification. So do they? That's a kind of training that I'm looking for, not a real training.
Right.
So in terms of the PMP, I was going to say that the PMI people, and I know that was in the chat box, they would probably know the answer to that question. So the other stuff I'm not sure, but professional organizations usually have information also about how to get funding for certifications and training.
And I'm pretty sure that there are, I'm familiar with Coursera. I know there are a lot of ones, and there are a lot of MOOC places, and I'm not familiar with all of them. I know that Coursera has a lot of, if not direct PMP courses, they're, you know, they will give you a lot of information surrounding them. And they have a financial aid thing. You apply for financial aid and it's free.
Yeah, the reason I want it is like in a lot of jobs are asking if you have PMPs must, because I had a PMP, I let it expire because I did not find any value with PMP. So, and it is also a lot of work keeping it up, and it expired a few years ago. But now in this case, like a lot of people are saying, you know what, the must entry criteria for this job is like, you know, you must have a PMP. So they're kind of filtering at that level. So to maybe to curb the inflow of applications or something like that. So I just wanted only for that purpose, I know, not that I want to learn something new.
And PMI is the certifying authority for that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I would do what Meryl said, and I would call PMI and ask them if you have to do the whole thing again. You may not have to do the entire education again. You may be able to recertify with a test or something.
Okay.
I also think they just want to know that you had that training and that you did have it at one point. I don't think you need to get recertified. They're looking for that you are a PMP. You passed the certification at one time. I can't imagine it changes very much, does it?
Well, they'll make you go through some kind of hoop. just to
Yeah.
make it bad.
I would be on and talk to them when you go on the interview. Say, yeah, I didn't pay for another certification, but here's my certification from 2015.
Okay.
It does change, and it changes every couple of years.
Wow.
But the advice that you gave is the same that I would give. Get in touch with PMI or with the local chapter of PMI and explore the question.
Okay, before everybody, some people have started to drop off the call. We'll still give you at least another 15 minutes for questions and answers, but before anyone else disappears, I have just put into the chat box the link to the evaluation. And if you will take 3 minutes, and if you can click on it, hopefully it'll work, and you go straight to evaluations, it'll take you 3 minutes to complete it. Please don't check off just the number part. We really need the answers to the questions about what was good about the program, what we can change about the program, what you're looking for going forward. So I'm not going to sing the Jeopardy music, but I'll give you 3 minutes and go click on that, fill out the evaluation, then we'll come back and still have about 12, 13 minutes to answer more questions. We really need to play music while we're doing this, Sharon.
I can sing.
Ding, 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 ding.
Exactly. Let's take another minute. I wish it was like the match game where people, they put the card in or they press a button so they've finished writing the answer.
Oh, you could do a thumbs up. How about that?
That's true. If anyone knows, if you finished, put a little thumbs up. That would be great.
Meryl?
Yeah.
Okay. I lost
It's
picture.
under, the thumbs up is under reactions on your toolbar at the bottom.
Oh, now I see them. Cool. Cute. All right, terrific. I think most people have finished. I mean, you can continue, but while we're still all here, Sharon, you see us? You back on the screen?
Nope. Anyone else lose?
It's probably, the Zoom call is probably hidden behind whatever screen.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Terrific.
It wasn't
Okay,
letting
so
me
we
go.
got another 10 minutes or so. More questions, more people want to practice the elevator pitch. You want to ask each other anything? I'm trying to see if there's any other questions.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
So since I was laid off due to the COVID-19 back in March, and if people are seeing that, like before I was working a full-time job, but before I got this full-time job, I was always working part-time jobs, and I was looking for a better position and I was able to get interviews, and maybe now I'm not even able to. And I don't know if it's because like they see that I'm not working right now, or people are not looking. I don't know if you should say that you were laid off due to COVID-19. Should you even say that in like LinkedIn?
Andrea, I see you shaking your head up and down. Did you have a comment for that? I see you.
You do. I believe that things are still in the state of flux. I do believe we have to keep trying. It's so hard to keep momentum up, and that's why Meryl and Sharon, you guys are great. Really, this is my favorite session that I go to. But I've been in banking in the financial services industry, and I have connected with so many of my colleagues as well as clients. And even now, what are we, 3 months into it? The plans are not solidified yet. They don't know who's coming back. They don't know what it's going to look like.
Right.
People have told me, be patient. Whatever it took, months ago, now it's taking so much longer. Very difficult for a lot of us working people. Very hard to sit on my hands. But, I'm getting excited a little bit because I just counted this week. I have 4 nibbles, which I've had no nibbles for the last 4 weeks. So, and they are minor, but I'm excited. It is something. But so to your question about not getting perhaps responses or seeing jobs out there, again, I'm coming from the financial services world, and all they are doing is the PPP. No one is doing any of their other jobs at a bank. And everyone, it's all hands on deck, just trying to do the government programs. So that's all I could say. I'm just trying to keep, myself engaged, because it will change. We just don't know when, right? So that's why I was shaking my head. Thanks, Meryl.
Great answer. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Did that help, Rebecca?
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Do you think that you should post on your LinkedIn page that if they see a gap in your career, that it was because of the COVID-19, or do you think they would automatically assume that?
Automatically assume that is. Everybody's going to have that on there. They know when they see those days, they're not even going to ask. They might ask, what did you do during it? But they're not going to ask what happened.
Okay.
You're, a lot of people in your boat there on the island. Anybody else have any questions?
Sharon?
Anybody, or does anyone want to introduce themselves and see if anyone else can help them?
Go ahead, Cheri. You were waiting.
Okay, I didn't want to hog the time if somebody else who didn't ask a question wanted. I just have a question. If you have any tips, a lot of time people say that they look at the last 15 years of your experience, and I've been at the same company for 18 years. And so I have other experience from prior to that I really want them to focus on, because I'm finding that more of the opportunities tend to be more so with my prior experience to the last job. So I was just wondering if you have any tips on how to kind of bring that to light.
Well, yeah, really great question. We'll share it, okay, Meryl? So the first thing I would do is on the top of your resume, I would put a section right after your positioning statement, your little paragraph. I would put a section that talks about relevant experience, because that's relevant to this job. You could put that on there without the date. Put it on relevant experience, put the experience down, your title, what you did, and then the next section on your resume could be experience, and that's then you can put all the experience chronologically. That's how I handle that in terms of the resume. That'll at least get you into an interview. Meryl,
when you say relevant experience, you're saying more the generic relevant experience as opposed to the company.
Right. That's what I would suggest, like a highlight section. It either says accomplishments, highlights, whatever, and you can put in those 5 or 6 bullets or 4 or 5 bullets, things that happen anytime. You know, there doesn't have to be a date, and just they need to be accomplishment statements. Very important. 4 or 5 competencies, core competencies, whatever it is, that now brings it to the top from wherever it was before. If there are companies that you worked for that you want them to see, you have names of, you know, oh wow, she worked for IBM, she worked for, you know, whatever. Then at the end, after your 18 years experience, you can put in a small section, prior professional roles, something like that. And then you just put in the job title, the name of the company, the job title and name of the company. You don't have to put in dates, but they can now say, oh, look, she worked for this person, this person, this person before her 18 years. So at least you get the name of the company up there. But to get the accomplishments and experience up there, I put it right at the top, like Sharon said, right below your positioning statement. So that's the first thing they read. And just as a heads up, since we're almost done anyway, our speaker for next week is a certified professional resume writer. And she's going to be talking about those kind of questions. And she'll have time for questions and answer. And she might even, depending on how the program goes, for volunteers, take a look real time at some people's resumes and give them feedback for everybody to learn. So be on that call next week, Cheri, and hopefully you can ask her that question because she's very experienced in doing this. But that's how I would do it. Anyone else on the call have suggestions?
Can we reschedule that one for tomorrow?
What? Excuse me?
Can we reschedule that one for tomorrow?
I'm sorry, no, it's next Thursday, and I'm glad I got.
I'm just joking.
I got it. Joe, you raised your hand before? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Anna. Right, you muted yourself. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
And me, go ahead.
Yes, Anna, go ahead.
Okay.
So you're next.
This may be a question, may also pertain to Jennifer and other transitioners. I am also transferring or changing my field fairly dramatically, actually. And I wanted to know, when you do have like very different things, like she was saying on your resume, how do you like, how do you, if you need to convince them that your passion really is with the new thing, how do you say that without making it look like your passion is always for the new thing? I mean, I've actually been waiting for 7 years to go into this field. So for me, it's really a big deal. And they really want to see passion in this field. I'm going into be this is a little bit sadly funny now, but a long-term care administrator. After COVID, it's a little bit scary, but I'm still very excited about it. But they want to see passion. And I'm afraid that, you know, all of my different work experience is going to make it look like I, you know, passionate, you know, multiple times a season. That's not true, but I'm being hyperbolic. But nonetheless, does anybody have any suggestions on how to convince them that this is this has been your real goal for a long time? Besides the fact that I do have education now going back 6 years to show that I have had this interest specifically in, and I got my license to do this work 6 years ago.
Go ahead, Sharon, you were going to say something.
Well, I just think in the interview, just tell them my whole career has been a ladder to reach what I ultimately wanted to do. And now I feel that I'm qualified to do it. I now have all of the skill set and everything that you could possibly need, and explain to them what you have and why you think it's a perfect fit. And I think your passion comes through. You're a very passionate person. I've known you from all these different programs, and I think your passion shines. So just tell them straight out, I have worked towards this my entire career. I have self-educated and learned on, on the job, and now I'm ready for this. Okay. Meryl?
That might still not work because I actually don't have experience. Well, I have volunteer experience, but I don't have work experience with seniors.
Okay, so your goal, Anna, because again, it's the same for everybody in every field. They have a problem and they want you to solve it. That no matter what field you're in, that's the interview goal, that's the resume goal, that's the goal. And your job is to say, okay, what is their problem? And what have I done in the past, whether it's in healthcare or not, that shows them that my skills, and someone put it in the chat box before, are transferable. And so that's really the key. The key is not so much about, do I have healthcare experience or not, but do I have the skill set that will solve your problem? And that's your job to convince them of that. And you start off by doing that in your resume by making sure that the skills shine. The second step, which really is a great place for your skills, for your passion to come across, is the cover letter. Cover letter definitely brings across that passion.
Working on it right now.
And the networking, because if you've networked with someone who you've already talked to, not because there was a job open there, but because you wanted to talk to them, they were ready to see your passion, or they're saying, hey, you should call this person Anna because she's so passionate about that. And then it's in the interview. So that interview is the last step. It's getting in the door, and all those other steps come first. But it's always about, does Anna have the skills that are going to solve my problem? That's always what they're thinking when they're interviewing you.
Okay. Can I ask one less really corny question? Just to roll up here.
Go ahead.
If I had to do an interview, what would you change in the screen right now? The hair, too unprofessional. The background, too homey. Anything? Does anybody want to, flame me? It's okay. Now's your chance.
No, the good thing about what you have going on then is that you have the right lighting. You'll notice I have way too much background light. I'm having a little problem with my menu this morning. So your face comes through very well. And I think there's a lot of different advice about what kind of background you want to have and whether you're getting an in-person interview or you're doing if you're doing an AI type interview where it's just you talking to a camera. Most people agree that you want zero background in those situations, but otherwise, I mean, I think your color balance is great.
Oh, thank you very much. It's actually a little funny because I've had some really big challenges today. I'm sitting on an exercise ball, and I'm like laughing the whole time because I've been a little bit unbalanced.
That's a great idea. I got to get an exercise ball.
Yeah, I was so uncomfortable in this. I was so uncomfortable the last few meetings that I was like, I cannot do this. So I tried the exercise ball today, and I actually feel a lot more comfortable, except for the fact that I realized that I'm bouncing and wobbling. So I wasn't sure if that came across. That might explain all this passion, you see.
There you go. All right, Joe, before we close out the meeting, go for your question. Did you have to unmute yourself first? Go ahead.
Oh, yes. No, I just shot it in the chat. I just joined a little late, so apologies to everybody. But I just want to introduce myself. My name is Joe Wiggins. I have over a decade of PR experience. I'm looking for the next opportunity. I'm a big proponent of networking. So even if you're in marketing or connected with another gentleman here, Paul, who's in IT, but works with different PR firms. So if there are opportunities where I can help you or you can help me, I'm all for it. So I think it's not necessarily about maybe not you and I connecting. Maybe it's a friend of a friend who can help you, or a friend of a friend that can help me. So I'm always open for networking. So name Joe Wiggins. Pleasure to meet everyone.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. All right, so just as we're sort of running out of time here, just to reiterate for Joe in particular who came on late and anyone else who wants to, all the programs have been recorded and they're up on our YouTube channel. And as we're ending up here, I'm going to see if I can find that link and I'll put it in the chat box. If not, you can always reach out to me or Sharon and we will share that with you. And you can watch any program at your own speed and time. Next Thursday, which is June 25th. Oh my God, how did we get to the end of June already? Like I said, we have a resume expert. I forgot the title of the program, but basically she's going to talk about how to get yourself noticed on a resume. She'll cover some of the ATS stuff, which I know we had covered before, but she's just going to talk in general. She's a certified professional resume writer, and I know from experience she writes amazing resumes. She also helps with LinkedIn profiles. She'll be answering questions, and if we have time and people want to volunteer and we can share a screen, she'll take a look at a resume and in real time go through it and give you some feedback so that everybody can learn from how she does that. So you should be getting at about 12:30 this afternoon the flyer. It's scheduled to go out, and join us for that. Otherwise, if anybody wants any more support or help for a very, very, very low cost program, you can reach out to me or Sharon. We're here to make you the best job searchers you can be. We're here to give you a shoulder to cry on if you need one, and a kick in the butt when you need one, because sometimes it's really hard to stay motivated anytime in a job search, especially now. And we are here to help you feel accountable but supported. And your spouses can't be the ones who are holding you accountable, and your parents and your children. It's good to have a third-party objective person like Sharon and I. So we at JVS are here to help you with that. If you have any questions and you're not currently working with us, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, just everyone stay healthy and safe and try to do the best. And if anyone has any suggestions on how I can keep myself from going to the supermarket, even though I really want to, let me know. Otherwise, any other questions, comments? Sharon, do you want to say anything else?
Nope, just thank you all for being here. Meryl and I don't just teach, we learn. We learn from all of you, so thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for completing the evaluations. If you ran out of time, go back and finish it, and we'll hopefully not see you next week because maybe you landed a job, but if you haven't, then we'll see you next week.
I'll be there.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
take
you.
care. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Guys.
Everyone.
Bye.